So if you thought that the United States had become a global laughingstock thanks to Donald Trump before 3 days ago, then the US is really doubly a laughingstock right now. The world is literally laughing at the United States because we have a dangerous fool as president who is still supported by tens of millions of Americans who recently suggested we should look into injecting bleach and isopropyl alcohol to treat coronavirus. Here is the chief medical officer in Australia, Brendan Murphy, struggling. If you're watching, you'll see him visibly struggling not to laugh as he takes a question from the Australian media about Donald Trump talking about hitting the body internally with heat, light, and disinfectants during Thursday's White House coronavirus press briefing last week.
Professor, today at a briefing, Donald Trump said that, quote, a tremendous hit, unquote, of ultraviolet light could see off the virus. He also referenced the effectiveness of disinfectant and wondered whether injections of disinfectant might also be effective. Given that this is coming from the President of the United States, an influential person, is there any scientific basis to either of these propositions?
I would caution against the injection of disinfection. They could be quite toxic to people. I wasn't privy to his comments, so I want to be very careful about commenting on something that I didn't hear myself. Certainly, and ultraviolet light. Look, I don't know the context in which he said it, so I really would need to study it and before I could comment. Thank you.
If you watched the clip, you see the Australian chief medical officer having difficulty to avoid bursting out laughing because that's what the world is currently doing. They're laughing at us. And some also just feel really bad for us. I got a number of nice messages over the weekend, including from friends of mine in other countries, Netherlands, Italy, other spots, from family in Argentina, from viewers in Canada, all who are essentially saying, we're really sorry for what you're dealing with. We're all dealing with the virus, but you, in addition to that, are dealing with Donald Trump. Here's the UK Deputy Chief Medical Officer also asked about disinfectant injections. Now Donald Trump being treated globally as a vector of disinformation that must be debunked time and again.
Just wanted to come back on one more thing. Many people in the UK will have seen the clip overnight of the President of the United States suggesting coronavirus might be treated by injecting disinfectant into the body. Do you have a message to Donald Trump about the dangers of spreading dangerous disinformation when governments around the world are trying to combat its spread from other sources?
Here I'll defer to medical expertise. Jenny.
So I wouldn't have a specific message to Donald Trump. I'd have a specific message to anybody who suggested they should be injecting anything into their bodies. Clearly, we would not support, from a medical professional perspective, it is really important that people use appropriate treatments that are evidence-based and tested. We have very good programmes that have been taken up very rapidly, coordinated in this country, testing various different alternative treatments. Those trials will report reasonably early, but certainly nobody should be injecting anything, and we should be using evidence-based and properly trialled treatments that we know will be safe.
World disclaimers and corporations like the makers of Lysol having to clarify, no, don't even think about doing this. Here's Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, also having to answer a similar question, actually saying what Trump said could be dangerous.
There's a big responsibility on all leaders right now. There's always a responsibility on leaders, but it's greater than ever during a crisis like this. And I've said it today, I said it yesterday, I'm really keen that we have an open discussion with the public, and that politicians, unusually perhaps, are prepared to admit things they don't know, as well as share the thinking on the things that we do know and are trying to work through. But the responsibility on leaders is not to stand up in a public platform and repeat things that you have perhaps half heard and perhaps completely misunderstood, and present that to the public in a way that the public might act on, and that could be dangerous. And none of us are perfect. We will all make mistakes in this, but I think we all have to remember that very serious responsibility when we're giving advice to the public. It must be good advice, informed by the best science. And as Jason has just said, it is clearly not the case that ingesting disinfectant in any way, shape or form is a good idea. It is a very, very bad idea and extremely dangerous.
And there are more from all around the world. I won't play them all for you today, but this is now what the world is dealing with. We're all dealing with the virus, and the world is having to come together. Corporate America and foreign leaders all having to come together to say, when Trump wondered aloud about injecting disinfectants, that was a bad idea. Don't do it. Some of them are having trouble not laughing when they're asked about it. You also, by the way, have poison control centers receiving phone calls. One example is from Maryland. The governor, Larry Hogan in Maryland, is a Republican. He's no left-wing bomb thrower, not a Democrat. Said Trump was sending the wrong message with the Bleach fiasco, and that his state over the weekend received hundreds of calls wondering if it is safe to ingest cleaning products as a result of Donald Trump's statement. Check out the Republican governor here explaining it.
Many of your citizens didn't see it as sarcasm. Is that how you took it?
Well, look, I think it's really important. This has been important to me from day one about communicating very clearly on the facts because people listen to these press conferences. They listen when the governor holds a press conference, and they certainly pay attention when the president of the United States is standing there giving a press conference about something as serious as this worldwide pandemic. And I think when misinformation comes out, or you just say something that pops in your head, it does send a wrong message. And we had hundreds of calls come into our emergency hotline at our health department asking if it was it was right to ingest Clorox or alcohol cleaning products, whether that was going to help them fight the virus. So we had to put out that warning to make sure that people were not doing something like that, which would kill people actually to do it.
So that's what happens when the guy who thinks the Nobel Prize is the Nobel Prize, N-O-B-L-E, it gets really bad. And it's gotten very, very bad. And again, an unforced error. And we will see what today's press briefing looks like after all of this.